How do creative people stay current in their creative flow and not get bored, feel stale, or even plateau in their quest to reach new and mind blowing creative heights? I'm Antoine Bean, and today we talk to fashion designer and international artisan Kris Keys for the answers. The renowned creator gives us her keys of maintaining an inspiring creative flow. Let's go. Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to Go Creator Go. I'm Antoine Bean, and I am so glad that you guys are here for this amazing show. You guys are going to be blown away by who I have here on the show today. So, thank y'all again so much for being a part of this. So, being a creative person, it can be challenging. It is something that only creatives can know. And of course, everybody has a gift. So you would know this, whether it be painting, whether it be designing, whether it be concept development, writing, even either way, being creative has its challenges. How do you create? How do you create? How do you get started? How do you be inspired? How does this whole thing start? And that's the whole purpose of this show. This show is designed for Christian creatives who need inspiration and who want to see the hearts and minds of other creatives that are believers. So I have an amazing guest, a person who literally has traveled the world with her gift. She has done amazing things in the realms of art and fashion. And she's someone that she is one of the sweetest people that I've ever met as far as her humility and even in her faith. She is an amazing, gifted woman who utilizes her gift from the tragedy of her past, from overcoming situations of her past and showing victory in what she's doing today. I cannot wait for you to meet Kris Keys. She is an amazing artisan. And she's world renowned. She's traveled literally across the pond. She's been in fashion shows and she's drawn famous people and she's done designing and sketching and she's even created her own line, which we will talk to her about as well, which is actually based off of her victory from her childhood. So it's really, really cool for you to be here and to listen to this amazing story. So but back to the whole point of it all, we're talking about going with the flow, and that's the name of this episode. Going with the flow, how to get that flow going, how to stay, keep your fire hot if you're a creator. How do you not get stale? How do you not plateau? How do you keep everything in perspective of why you're doing this and how you're doing this, and to keep that thing going despite all the distractions that are maybe going on right now or currently going on right now. Of course, you know, the world is dealing with a situation right now that is, we're hearing it literally on the news every moment, and we're seeing it in our own lives and how it's affected us as a community. It's affected us as believers. You know, everything is virtual. Everything's online now, pretty much. And people are going back to things, but it's not the same. You know, it's just simply not the same anymore. And we've seen this before in other world events that have happened. But one thing that has always been current is that creatives have always been able to rise above it and utilize these situations to be a blessing for themselves and for them to basically overcome these mountains of adversity. and even be inspirations to other people to stand up and to say, yeah, I see this, and I need to do something as well. But joining me now is somebody who knows all too well about conquering adversity, and someone who is very inspiring as an artist. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce to you Miss Kris Keys. Hello, Kris.
Hi, Antoine. Thank you so much for having me.
Hi, it's so good to talk to you. It is amazing to meet you. And again, after knowing you, how long have I known you? How long have we known each other now?
I'm sure it's been about 8 years. I think we met in like 2012.
Yeah. 2012.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yep.
2012. I met Kris. It's hilarious actually. I actually met her through my gift. My gift actually made
Mm-hmm.
room for me to meet her. I met Kris, it's 2012. My God, 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
I met Kris in 2012, early summer, spring 2012. She was doing a Kickstarter campaign to go to London, the London School of Fashion. She got a full ride there, but the whole thing, if I'm saying it right, please correct me if I'm wrong. To get to,
Mm-hmm.
but the problem was she had to get there. So she had to raise some money to get to the London School of Fashion. And then once she got there, basically the key to the city was waiting on her. So her challenge was, how can I raise X amount of money to get over there so I can fulfill this purpose that's on my life?
Mm-hmm.
And I to this day don't know how you found me, but she called me and told me her situation, and I was like, okay, no problem. And I went, and like all things, I always go to prayer about it first. I said, well, let me pray about this, And so I go, and God instantly get downloads in me how to shoot it, what it needs to look like. This is what you need to do. I was like, okay. So and it's interesting because every time I'm approached with a project like this, I know that I'm destined to do it because I always see it before I shoot it. So when the finished product came out, we actually, and it was effortless too. Like it was like, oh, we can do it here, and let's call this person, and everybody was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. So everything just fell into place, and we filmed it.
Yep.
Yeah, it was crazy. We filmed it, and I interviewed Kris and asked her some questions, filmed some of her work, and at that time, Kris was doing fashion sketches. She was doing like,
Mm-hmm.
the drawings, like when you're going to a fashion show and you see the people on the side literally drawing what they see. She was doing that kind of art, which was incredible. And it's still on YouTube. If you want to pull it up, it's
Mm-hmm.
called,
It is.
yeah, it's still there. It's on YouTube right now. So I'll post it on the link below on this episode so you can see it. But it's really, really cool. And I was blown
Yeah.
away by it because that shoot just literally just fell in the pocket. Like it was an effortless shoot to do. And
Yeah, it was in a few days.
it was like, it was no
Mm-hmm.
time. Like I think we filmed it and cut it. I think I cut it either that night or it was
Yeah,
done
but
like,
it was like that day or the next day or something.
yeah,
Posted it. Yeah.
incredible. It was incredible. Like it was so easy, effortless to do. And the moment that video dropped, it just instantaneously the donations came in. Her Kickstarter was just rolling, and
Mm-hmm.
it just really moved. And the next thing you know, she called me and she's like, "Oh yeah, everything work is done. I'm going to London now." I was like, "This is incredible."
And
It-
actually, I didn't have I didn't have a full ride. That was actually the funding just for the first year of school. So I just
wow,
needed something just to get me started. It was like $20,000 for just to get the visa, the tuition, and all of that. Paid just for the first year. So that was like,
amazing.
yeah, it was a big jump.
That is a huge jump. That is and a huge act of faith too.
Yes,
I
for
mean, a
sure.
huge act of faith. I mean, I didn't know that it was for the first year. That is
Hmm.
incredible. So how many years were you
Yes,
there?
I did that program for 4 years. I did that program. And then I had been in London before that for a few years prior to that, doing a different degree program.
That
Yeah,
is
so
amazing.
yeah, so God made a way for the last 3 years for that to come through.
That is incredible. I did not know that part. That is
Hmm.
amazing. Oh
Hmm.
wow. Now that tells me right there that there was nothing but purpose of you being there. That just I mean,
Yes.
yeah, that was pure purpose of you being there. So we're going to get into, I would like to really talk to you about, well, now that I know that, I would love to know a little bit more about what you did over there. But I know that you worked for several fashion designers when you were there. And even
Hmm.
before you left, you were doing some stuff with a couple of designers there. Um, Feel free to introduce yourself and tell the few people who don't know who you are. Can you tell them about you and introduce yourself?
Yes. So I'm originally from Memphis, and I always start off with that first because I think that says a lot about who I am. I have this balance of glamour and grit about myself and
Right,
about my work.
right.
Um, and I've always wanted to be an artist. Like I can't remember a time where art wasn't in my vocabulary or an option. Like I ever since I was little, I was always sketching or doing some kind of creation project. So I knew that was like my purpose very early on. And I have just been really I found, I would say, my way to fulfill my purpose or to like share my gifts through pretty much through traveling. So getting outside of Memphis and is the word is not oyster, like that saying that's just like the motto really for who I am in my life.
Yes, yes. Why the London School of Fashion? Why them? What made you say this is where I need to be?
Okay, so I lived in New York for about 2 years. So I moved there right after I graduated from undergrad. I went to undergrad in Tennessee, at University of Tennessee at Martin, and I moved to New York shortly after that. And I knew that I wanted to be. Always wanted to be a designer, but I didn't have the skills needed. Like I really didn't know like the proper vocabulary. When I applied for jobs, I didn't have like a design portfolio. I had sewn, things for my friends and stuff like that, but I really didn't know what it looked like to be a designer in industry.
Right.
So I moved there in 2008, and that was like the height of the recession,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everybody was on like a hiring freeze, and I was like, I don't care if I don't get a job. I have to go. So
Mm,
I left and I went without a job, and I finally, after going back to intern for a few months, I found a job. It was in retail, and then I went into visual merchandising, and slowly but surely, I started to find my way. Things started to kind of like now. Things were on the hiring freeze. The economy was bad, but things started to open up. But I still didn't have enough experience to get a job in design. So I took a job at a showroom, and I was like a showroom assistant. So I started to go down that route. And the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that the fashion industry has so many different umbrellas to it. So
yes.
just because you work in the fashion industry does not mean that you work in design. I was going more on the business end, on the buying end. And now I appreciate that experience, but I knew that I wanted to design, and I'm like, I'm going into this number crunching, suit wearing person, and like my creativity. I didn't draw like my paints never saw the light of day during that time. I was just like a New Yorker, get up, get on the train in an office, and coming home like that. So, um, a little piece of me was just slowly just dying, and got to the point where I
Mm,
was
right.
dreading going to work, and
Mm,
eventually they laid me off, and I was sad because I'm like, how am I going to pay my rent? But I knew that I wanted to um, go back to school for design,
right.
and I figured that I wanted to learn the British way of designing from a illustration class that I had taken at the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York. So I was like, okay,
Oh, okay.
um, I want to study fashion design in London, and the reason why is because I found out that they really research a subject like pick it apart that's outside of fashion. So I had met this guy, and he was studying bones, and so he had this portfolio. I told him to show me what he presented to get into this design school in London, and he opened up this book, and there were no fashion designs in it at all. It was
Huh.
just a book of research of he had taken bones and dissected it, and he had like taken some pictures from fossils, that people had found of like old bones, he'd taken bones from dinosaurs and just colors, and it was just like this big research project. And he told me, he was like, the British way of designing is you take a subject and you just really dig into it that's outside of fashion, and then you apply it to, so that's how you come up with ideas for design.
That is
And it was
crazy.
just like, yeah, right. And I was like, I have never seen this done before ever, and I just got chills because I thought, this is who I am. Like, I'm an artist and I'm a designer.
Right.
And the thought of designing from pulling images from, let's just say, Prada or Louis Vuitton, and then designing from that just made me cringe. Like, why do I
Yeah.
want to take existing designs and create designs? Like, how do I become an innovator in this industry?
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
right. And I looked at so many, and not to shade any American designers, but a lot of the times, we are like with the commerce side, I would say, of the industry. We know how to sell, but
Right.
we always look at like Paris or, London for like the wild, crazy, avant-garde, innovative ideas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. So let me ask you this real quick to inject real quick. So
Mm-hmm.
the guy with the bones portfolio, that makes a lot of sense because sometimes I'll see advertising and marketing campaigns that these luxury brands will do, like a Louis Vuitton,
Mm-hmm.
like a Prada, like a Fendi, and they'll do
Mm-hmm.
these weird campaigns. Like, for example, Fendi had this thing where they were doing with they had faces on their bags where they had
Mm-hmm.
the little eyes and then the little teeth, like,
Right. Little
yeah,
fur.
and I was like, what is the point of this? But now that you explain that to me about him and how they liked his concept of something that had nothing to do with fashion, but they can make fashion out of it,
Mm-hmm.
that it completely changes your thinking and your approach of that,
Right.
because there's so many people who are coming in there saying I can make a dress, but he's saying I can create an idea. So
Mm-hmm.
I've heard tons of inspirational speakers and inspiring people always say don't come up with ideas sell, basically. Don't come up with the same thing that everybody else is expecting to do. Do something that's completely out
Right.
the box and something that people don't expect from any direction. And that's the stuff that
Exactly.
tends to be, that's what they gravitate to. So that makes a lot of sense, especially when I
Yes.
see, like I said, especially lately with how, Louis Vuitton and Gucci, well, Gucci particularly, has been under fire by some of the things that they've been doing. And even when
Mm-hmm.
that stuff was happening, I would say, well, where did that even come from? And now that I see the perspective of how they see it and how they approach fashion, that makes total
Mm-hmm.
sense.
It's almost like you starting a movement a little bit,
Right.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
So
And that also goes into the whole thing about staying current and keeping your creative juices flowing. We don't just want to make another
yeah,
bag. We want to do a bag that looks like this, or that we
exactly.
got inspiration from this bag from this. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, everything from the color palette to the shape, silhouettes, everything. Yeah, so I thought, okay, this is the direction that I need to go. I've been feeling a little stuck,
Mm-hmm.
and I really didn't know like which angle, but that gave me some direction. So I started to apply for schools, and I still didn't have like this portfolio that they wanted me to present. So I found this school, it's an American school that is in London called American Intercontinental University, and they basically they will let you in, and they will teach you like the basics. So it's like a foundation course.
Got you. Okay.
That'll teach you like the basics of how to even think like that. So that was like my ticket into London. Like I got into that school. It was pretty simple to get in. It wasn't like the top notch British school, but at least the teachers that I had like worked for Alexander McQueen, and I had
Wow.
another teacher who was a big fashion illustrator, and he became my mentor. So that's one way how I found out that fashion illustration was like an actual job. And when I went over there, I really just started to document my life through drawing. So I would take the sketch pad everywhere I went. I would draw it. I would post it on Tumblr at the time, and I started to get like a crowd following from Tumblr, and people started to realize that I'm this American girl in London that documents her life through sketching. And then I started to get tickets to go to fashion shows during London Fashion Week, and started to draw
Cool.
designers collections, and started to share it with them. So they would start reposting it on Tumblr. And
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, so it's like I just found this whole other avenue. I went there for design, but I found this whole other avenue of expressing my creativity and things that I was good at, which was fashion illustration. So that school, I knew that didn't need to be my last stop while I was there. I was like, I need to get to a higher level school to really, really learn about everything that I want to know about fashion design. So that school, that program ended. That school actually was purchased by a British school. I came back to Memphis, and I was still illustrating in Memphis. Like I went to the Brooks Museum and illustrated at one of their events, and started to illustrate for private clients, and was just still just drawing every day, everything. And my skills during that time was just getting better and better and better. I don't even know how I came up with, or how I decided that this was the time to go to London College of Fashion. I always knew I wanted to go, because when I was there, I would go to they had exhibitions, and, they had art talks, and it was just, every time I went there, I would come away with like so much knowledge that
Wow.
I could only imagine that if I was educated there, how much more information I could get, and
Right.
how much more enriched my artistic and design skills would be. So
That's right.
I
You found your
applied.
tribe, basically.
Right, right. Yes, I applied when I was here. They had a team to come to the States, and I think their only places were like Atlanta and New York. So I got together. Well, I had portfolios from the previous school, and I also did another project on my own to show them, which was inspired by Native American culture and their history in Memphis. So we have a reservation here called Chucalissa. So I went
Yes.
there and got all this research and did some designs inspired by that. And my dad drove me down to Atlanta, and I went into this room that I thought was so scary. There was a panel of these British designers and instructors and higher ups in the school, and presented my ideas to them. And they asked me a bunch of questions, and we it was this whole process. And then probably about 2 months later, I got a letter that I had been accepted.
That is
So
amazing.
yeah, yeah. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, oh my god,
That is
yeah,
amazing. And it was record time. Like everything just fell into place.
mhm,
That is
yeah.
incredible. So why the Native American concept? What made you say this is the way I'm going to go for inspiration? What made you go to Chucalissa for that? What why the Native American route?
So getting that little taste of storytelling, and finding out how to take a subject and really dissect it. The thing that is closest to me is my story. A lot of Black people who are in the South have roots, dating back to the 1800s, that stem from Native Americans.
Right.
And so
Absolutely.
at that time, my great grandmother was still living. She actually passed like a few weeks before I went to London College of Fashion. Like before she got really sick, I had interviewed her about her life, and she mentioned that in Mississippi how she would there were still Native American tribes,
Yes.
much more than it is now. And so I thought, this is a story that's close to me. I was very intrigued and interested to know how, this culture of African Americans um, blended or even stemmed from the Native American culture. That whole story was just intriguing to me. So I wanted to learn more about it. And I figured what better way to learn more about it than incorporating into design.
Yes. So did you find out what tribes you were connected to?
I feel like I did, and I think I've forgotten.
Okay.
But
Got
I
to
do have a
revisit.
whole book.
Yeah.
I got to revisit. Yeah, I have a whole book of research from that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. So one day I'll
Yeah.
revisit that and make it into a actual collection.
That would be amazing. Even a book to go along with a nice coffee table book would be nice to do
Yeah,
with that
yeah, that'd
too.
be really cool.
That would be really, really dope. We got to get you back on the show when they put that out. That'd be awesome.
Right, right.
That's a great idea. So, but that's not the only part of your story that inspired you with your creativity. Tell us about your childhood and how all of that went into play. Because when I met you, uh, when I filmed you for the video for your fundraiser, you told me your story about you being at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital and things like that, and how that inspired you to even with the designs that you're doing today. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, okay. So when I was a baby, I was diagnosed with a blood disorder, and the blood disorder is called hereditary elliptocytosis, the tongue twister. But basically, my mom saw that I was a little more ill than the normal baby should be, and they took me to St. Jude and found out that I have a blood disorder that stems from my mom and my dad's side. So they have like half of the trait, and I have the full trait. And so that's something that I'll be living with forever. And that's something that was like a common theme in my childhood. Just going back and forth to St. Jude, always getting blood was a constant thing, right? So just
Hmm.
getting my blood count checked and getting blood transfusions and so on.
Right.
So my last year of being at London College of Fashion, we had to do a final collection that's like a big deal. It's almost just like a in dissertation thesis, if you're in school. And I was like, I really want to again pull from something that is personal to me, but also something that relates to a lot of people. There's so many people who have blood disorders and they know about it, and there's so many people who don't know that they have blood disorders. They just know that they don't feel well. And so
Mm.
I really wanted to use that as a way to share my story, but also educate people, especially it affects people from mainly African and Mediterranean descent.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah, so to let people know that blood disorders run through our culture, and that's something that we need to be a little bit more proactive about, before we have children, especially knowing what our blood count, or what, not our blood count, but our blood type, and knowing if we have any irregular traits within our blood, and that affects nutrition and all that. So I came back to Memphis. I got my blood smears from when I was a baby.
Hmm.
And
Wow.
then my doctor at St. Jude, he was still there, so he just allowed me to kind of dissect his blood hematology books, and take inspiration from different types of blood disorders. He told me about so many more. Also, there's a sickle cell center in Memphis, and so
Yes. Yes. A good one.
he let me. Yeah, it's a really good one. So the head of there, Dr. Gray, she let me just come in and with the acknowledgement or the permission from the patients, let me speak to some of them so I can hear their stories and really, really get down to like the meat of the issue, so I can put all of that soul, that feeling, into this collection so
That
that
is
you can really,
incredible. Yeah.
yeah,
That is incredible. I mean, it's just amazing to me how you literally take all of these elements of your life and integrate them in your creativity to where it almost flows naturally to where when people ask about it, it's like, wow, this is where you got that from. Like, that is absolutely incredible. Because I've seen your designs. Because
Mhm.
what a lot of people don't know is that Kris Keys is actually on teachable.com. She's an instructor on teachable.com, and she teaches about fashion
Mhm.
and fashion art and how you draw and design and things like that, which I had the pleasure of filming that as well.
Yes.
And that was, yeah, that was really fun. It was really cool. And I learned a whole lot about the art of how she does what she does in that. Kris is a very gifted teacher. So that is really good. If you get a chance, if you go to teachable.com and look her name up, you'll see it. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
So yeah. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a break right now. And when we come back, I want you to talk to us about what is it that keeps you going with this, because you're using life experiences, but at the same time I heard key things like researching and asking questions and interviewing certain people, and even some of your inspiration of how you get inspired to even go down this path of doing it, because your transparency really is incredible. Not a lot of people are as transparent as you are, especially when it comes to their sharing their gift to the world like you do. So I want to talk to you about that when we get back. And also, what if, because I run into artisans who have things complete, whether it be their art or even some fashion designers that I've run into that actually have things that are ready to go, but they don't have next steps. So I want to ask you
Mhm.
about, what is the next step to do for them? What would you suggest for these people what's the next step for them to make? So when we come back, we're going to cover those things and go across the finish line. So we'll talk in a moment. Stay with us. This is Go Creator Go. All right. We are back. We are back. That was a lot of meat right there. That was a lot of information. That was a whole lot of information, and good information at that. It was like, man, that's amazing. The testimony that Kris Keys has is really awesome. Kris, I'm so glad that you are here with us. I really am glad that you're on the show. And I learned some things about you I didn't even know. I've known you for 8 years and didn't know some of this stuff.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
so that's amazing. So let's start with creative flow, like keeping yourself going. Because clearly you were in New York in the middle of a recession,
Right.
and you managed to stay afloat there and keep your creativity going to where you got the attention of literally some of the most elite fashion schools in Europe, in London particularly. You kept yourself relevant there. Then you were able to come back to Memphis and find inspiration of creating the line there that literally blew their socks off there. And even while you were in Europe, going to these shows and making your way there and finding creativity, finding niches there that worked for you and made room for you. How do you do it, Kris? How do you stay current? Where does this inspiration come from for you?
That's such a loaded question. I think really just staying true to who you are and really finding innovative ways to tell the story that you're trying to tell. It could be your story, it could be storytelling. I mean, I'm a big advocate for storytelling. If you're just creating for the sake of it, like you really need to. I read a book a couple of years ago by Simon Sinek. I think that's how you say his last name, but
Mm-hmm.
it's called Start with Why. And
Mm.
they really like changed my perspective. It's like it's everything that you do, you need to have a reason behind it. So I
That's
think
good.
that
Yeah.
once you have a reason behind it, the ideas will eventually move. Like even during this corona pandemic, a lot of people like for the first few weeks were just really like stuck creatively, myself included. Like I couldn't figure out how to get any ideas out, any content out for even old ideas. I just couldn't think through it. But when I came back to like, okay, what am I trying to tell people through what I'm doing?
Right.
Then ideas started coming back to me. So I think that that's my suggestion. It's just like to start with why. Always have like the why in front of you, and then even if you sometimes we have creative blocks and get off track. Another book that I really love is called The Artist Way, and I've been rereading that. I've read it so many times, but I've been rereading it. It just has like a lot of exercises to help you to get your creativity flowing or to get it back.
Gotcha.
But yeah, if you keep why in front of you, I think that's my biggest piece of advice.
That's good. That's good. I love that. I love that. Also, my next question is there are some people, some creatives who they've been creating and grinding and axing this thing out, chiseling this thing out for a while. And some of them, I've run into them. They, at events or at speaking engagements or whatnot, they have their t-shirt line ready to go. They've got their skirts and stuff sewn up together. They have whole pantsuits and things ready to roll. And they are just gifted and talented, but nobody knows them. Nobody has discovered them yet, or no one even literally knows they exist, and they're these
Hmm.
gifted, talented designers and artisans. What are the next steps for those people? Like what do they need to do? Speaking from someone who has been in those circles of getting recognized and being seen and knowing, I did this. How do they get out there?
You know what? I think that if you're in a state where you have products or you have ideas and you just need to, I guess, market it. I would say use all of the resources that you have. Like everybody has social media.
Right. Right.
Start using. I think that's like the most obvious thing that you can use. Visual platforms like Instagram or Facebook. You have to be present now on the internet as much as you were. Like back in the day, you would always go to networking events and stuff.
Yes.
Now, I feel like you have to have a presence online. I would start there. And if you have a product that's wearable, I would say be your own billboard.
Mm-hmm.
When I go out, especially I make travel stars, and I never travel or go anywhere without, when it's pulling up, I never go without my scarf.
That's true. That's
So
true. Every time I see
yeah,
you, you got a scarf on. That is very
I got a
true.
scarf on.
Yep.
I
That is
even try
very
to push
true.
it when it's hot outside. It's like got to find another. Can I wrap it around my hair or something? Um, just because if it's a great product, and you really have to believe in the product, people are going to ask about it, and that's your way to start promoting it. So I would say start there, and then don't worry about how am I going to sell all of these or how I'm going to build like the end brand. It's just
Mm,
really about brand recognition in the beginning.
right.
That's just like really really small baby steps. And sometimes it doesn't seem like it's moving, but the more people that see your product, the more you move it. You cannot, you can design in a vapor, but you eventually have to come out of that hole so that people can see
Oh
what you're
yeah.
doing.
Absolutely. You got to
Yeah.
come out the cave eventually.
I want to add one more thing, which is collaboration.
Ah.
So my personal story, the way that people found me is because I would do these illustrations for other brands, usually for free. I would keep the rights to the art, but I would allow them to just like repost it on their Tumblr. So I was just meeting people. I was meeting so many people by collaborating with these other designers and these other companies. So, see what other brands, or, even if it's a brand that's outside of like the fashion industry,
Yes.
it could be a toothpaste brand, a coffee brand, or something. If they line up with who you are, who your brand is, see if you can collaborate some kind of way.
That makes a lot of sense. I saw recently, I went to Coach and I saw
Mhm.
Star Wars had a collaboration with Coach. And they
Yeah,
did this
yeah.
whole thing where you would see Darth Vader on a backpack, or Luke Skywalker's lightsaber on a wallet, or an
Mhm.
Ewok on a throw, a scarf, things like that. I thought that was really ingenious, really. The idea of blending
Yeah.
those two brands together. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Collaboration is key, and I'm noticing that more fashion brands are really, really getting into that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like it's two different worlds, but it just works together.
Yeah, yeah. Even with celebrities, even people, because now people are
Mhm.
looked at as brands, and even with Jennifer Lopez and Coach, they just signed this huge deal together. And Jennifer Lopez is her own person; she's got her own thing going. Michael B.
Mhm.
Jordan, same thing with Coach, and yeah, that makes a lot of
Mhm.
sense. That's totally amazing. And even with Jay-Z and the NFL, that whole collaboration with the marketing between him and how the NFL is doing with their race relation marketing and things like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So collaboration is definitely definitely key for that. Cool. So
Mhm.
to sum it up, you know, the one thing that I noticed too that threads through your entire career is your faith. You
Mhm.
definitely are a woman of faith. You have very strong faith. I mean, I remember when I interviewed you about this, going to London, and you had no doubt in your mind that that's where you were supposed to be. You had no doubt in your
Mhm.
mind that you were going to go. We're going to make this goal. The Kickstarter is going to be fine, and I'm going to be there. As a matter of fact, I remember that you actually went over what you asked for. You actually got more than what you asked
Mhm.
for, what you asked for. I think you asked for 20, but you ended up with like 23, 24 or something like that.
Mhm.
It was substantially over. And so and it was less than 30 days. That wasn't
Yeah.
even, yeah, I don't even think it was 20 days. And you literally you exceeded the goal. God really met you there, and you exceeded that goal. And you were like, yeah, I'm out. We did it. He did it.
Mhm.
He totally did it for me. And then of course, seeing how when you were there, I was following you on Facebook and how you were at all these events and doing all this stuff with Ann Taylor and going to these things with the fashion shows, and you were right there on the front row and seeing these people going by and drawing and being there in the mix of paparazzi and everything. I was like, wow, this is incredible. Tell us about how your faith and how your spiritual foundation has kept you in this.
I look at my life like it's like a history book. So every time I come across like something that I deem is like challenging or an obstacle, I just have to kind of look back and see how my faith is like you said, I've exceeded expectations on every situation. Like, for example, when I first was about to go to London, like I didn't have the money, but I just knew it's just a feeling, like when you pray and just think about everything that you want, and like you know that that's the path that you're supposed to be on, and just like
Yes.
listening to signs, you know what I'm saying? Like feeling when God is trying to push you in a certain direction. It's just a feeling. I don't even know how to explain. It's a
Oh
feeling
yeah.
that's like yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be, and going full force. And like the first time, I feel like when you almost like take that first like cliff jump, it is so scary. Like it seems like it's the
Yes.
scariest thing
Yes.
that you've ever done. But once you allow your faith to let you take that jump and you realize that, okay, this was like the best decision I've ever made. This, if I hadn't have taken this jump, X, Y, and Z lined up. So I'm just going to take those risks every single time and allow my faith to lead me with every single thing I do in my life. Like if I didn't take that risk to go to London, I remember when I first landed, I was just looking around like, what have I done? Like, I didn't know anybody. I went
Wow.
like not knowing anybody. Only knew friends of friends, like people who had connected me with other people. But I was just like, it's almost like the feeling of protection. Like my faith has guided me this far. God is going to see me through the next step. So let me just keep going. And I kept going, and every other obstacle, I just kind of used it as a reference point. Like, and even with the blood disorder, I actually had a friend in high school that unfortunately passed away from sickle cell. And I realized that, like that could have been, I could have been in the same situation, but I have this blood disorder and I'm able to still travel, still, be sociable, still have a normal life. So what challenges can I not face? You know what I mean?
Right. That is incredible. It just, it goes into, the scripture about when we pray and we know he hears us, he will do what we ask if it's in his will. It's that all of that to me resonates your life. Like that whole thing right there. Like you really believe that God has your back in all of these situations, and he does, and clearly he did in your past, in your as your childhood, and even now, he just literally guides your steps. That is awesome. Well, Kris, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to find you and follow you and even purchase your amazing products from your line, from your fashion pieces, where can they find you?
Yes, so you can find me. My website is bykriskeys.com. So it's BYKRISKUYS. And I'm most active on Instagram. My handle is @ByKrisKeys. And Facebook and Twitter, I'm also the same, @ByKrisKeys. You can find me on any of those platforms.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kris. Thank you so much for that amazing interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
In conclusion, we all need inspiration. Even the best artists have dry spells, but the key to focus is on your why. Why did you get into this? Why do you love it? And what got you into this from the start? What's the inspiration? At the end of the day, your creativity is part of you and connected to your spiritual purpose. God has imparted in you gifts to touch, heal, restore, and even inspire the hearts of others to turn to him. Remember, as a creative, you have purpose, and God wants to make use of it to not only be a blessing for you, but to help move his kingdom forward through you. I'm Antoine Bean, and guys, thank you so much for joining us on today. I look forward to talking to you. We'll be seeing each other soon, though, but talking to you soon. And thank you so much for being a part of Go Creator Go. Bye-bye. Be blessed. Go Creator Go is created in Memphis, Tennessee at the Triumph Media Works Studios. For more information, check out triumphmediaworks.com and follow us on Facebook at Go Creator Go. Be blessed.